It's been an eventful few days in the world of USC athletics, but we have everything you need to know to keep you up to date.
We'll break down the latest in football, water polo, and women's soccer. Sports Scene starts now.
From Studio C in the Julie Chen, Leslie Moonves CBS Media Center, welcome to Sports Scene. I'm Keely Eure.
And I'm Kristen Lago. It has been a tough few days for USC football players and fans alike with the firing of Coach Steve Sarkisian. Athletic Director Pat Haden was put on the hot seat by many, but Haden is defending his decisions and how he's dealt with Sarkisian for the past couple months. USC President CL Max Nikias backed his AD in a statement today saying, "As president of USC, I am very fortunate to have Pat Haden as our athletic director, as is the entire Trojan family. He is a man of true character and integrity. I look forward to working with Pat Haden as our AD for many years to come." So, Keely, you were at practice on Sunday when this whole situation kind of first unfolded. Looking back, why don't you take us through how it first began?
Yeah, so when you showed up to practice on Sunday, the first thing you noticed was that Sark wasn't there. It was a short practice, and media was scheduled to talk to Sark. We were escorted to Heritage Hall and told that someone would talk to us. We didn't know who that was, though. About 45 minutes later, we went to a conference room where Pat Haden and Clay Helton spoke about how, at the time, Sark was being asked to take a leave of absence, and then the rest, as we know, unfolded over the next day. Today, at practice, Helton reiterated his support for Sark.
And Helton is not the only member of the team to back Sarkisian. Immediately after the news was released, the situation blew up on social media. From faithful fans to former players, everyone had something to say about the situation. Let's toss it to Haley to break down the reactions on Twitter.
Thanks, Kristen. The Twitter world exploded with both support and criticism from former and current Trojan players chiming in after USC announced Sark was fired. Heisman-winning quarterback Matt Leinart wanted to support Sarkisian, saying, "Sark is a friend and he needs help. I ask everyone, instead of the criticism, show your support for him. This is much bigger than football." Hall of Fame defensive back Ronnie Lott said, "Wishing Steve Sarkisian the very best. Get the help you need and get healthy. #fight on." And former USC safety Dion Bailey, who was here when Lane Kiffin was fired, said, "If we make the right choice, I would have had one more year. We have to get it right this time. Coach Eure Helton, help keep the juniors around." Also mentioning Coach Orgeron was former captain and linebacker Hayes Pollard, who said, "At Cody Kessler, at Antoine Woods, at Sua Cravens, keep them boys locked in. Long season, fight for your brother. Remember what Coach O taught us." Another former great Trojan quarterback, Matt Barkley, who mentored Kessler, still has hope in this year's team, tweeting out, "I support my USC Trojans, and I believe in Cody Kessler and Clay Helton. Get her done, boys. #fight on." Redshirt junior linebacker Scott Felix had a message to send about the team moving forward, saying, "We will fight for each other and for our school. We are not out of the fight. Watch out for the Trojans." That's what's happening in the Twitter world. Keely and Kristen, back to you.
Thanks, Haley, for bringing us some of the voices from USC's past and present. Kristen, it's obviously unfortunate for a program to lose their head coach in the middle of the season. Going forward, how do you think this will affect the players?
Well, like Clay Helton had mentioned earlier, fortunately and unfortunately for many of these players, they've been through this before. Like you mentioned, while it's always tough for a team to lose their coach mid-season, we did see them rally together just last year. So the team will have to push these coaching changes out of their mind. They have to focus on the Notre Dame game this weekend. And Clay Helton, the offensive coordinator, will once again take over as the interim head coach. Keely, we have seen Helton in this position before. Who is he, and what does he bring to the table this season?
Yeah, well, Clay Helton has actually been with the team the longest out of all the coaches. He knows this team well, and the players are comfortable with him. He became the offensive coordinator in 2013, and when Ed Orgeron resigned at the end of that season, Helton became the interim head coach, and he actually led the Trojans to a victory in the Las Vegas Bowl. This season, Helton took over the main responsibilities of play calling, so I'd expect no drastic change there on the offense. So overall, Helton knows the offense, he knows the culture at USC, and he knows the players. If anyone were to step up as interim head coach, I'd want Clay Helton to do it.
Yes, and we actually heard from Clay Helton today after practice when he spoke about taking over as head coach.
You just heard from Clay Helton as he emphasized how the USC football team has to focus on their upcoming game against rival Notre Dame, and so will we. Here to help me do that, Paolo Ughetti.
How's it going?
I'm doing well. So Paolo, there's going to be some key players to watch for on Saturday. First, let's start with the wide receivers.
Well, you got two great offensive weapons on each side of the ball. You got Juju Smith-Schuster for the Trojans. He has 619 yards on 33 catches, top 5 receiver in the nation. But on the other side, you got Will Fuller, who's top 7 in the nation, who's also been producing for the Irish, even despite their quarterback being out on injury. They really relied on him to produce in the air game for them to be able to produce on offense as well. They both got great talents. They're both going to be a big part of the game on Saturday, and so it'll be interesting to watch who can stand out more.
Yeah, for sure. Now, looking at another offensive weapon, the running backs, Trey Madden and CJ Prosise. What do they bring to the table?
Well, to me, CJ Prosise has got a lot of talent, and not a lot of people are talking about him, but he's already got 779 yards through only 6 games. That's a school record. Wow. So he's really been a standout player so far for the Irish, and because of their injuries to their quarterbacks, they've really had to rely on the running game so far, and he's been great in helping them out to do that.
Yeah, and as far as Trey Madden goes, we haven't seen as much from him as we did at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he started off the season with a 100-yard game, which was a great sign. He kind of leveled off a little bit. Against Washington, he had a very protected game, but the Trojans didn't really stick with the run game much, so he wasn't able to really produce much more than what he was given.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what Clay Helton does with the run game now that he's the interim head coach. But switching over to the defensive side of things, you got 2 veteran players on the defense for Notre Dame and USC.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of people, I feel like, have heard about Joe Schmidt. He was a walk-on, and now he's the linebacker and the captain for the Irish. So he's been a great player. He's got 37 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, and 2 sacks. He's definitely a player to look out for as the Trojans try to, establish their offense, establish the run. If they try to do that, he'll be a very dangerous player to deal with. And as the Trojans goes, Anthony Sarr, you may not hear a lot about him. He's not exactly the most flashiest player, but he's always in the middle, really just being the anchor for that defense. So if the Trojans want to hold off whatever offensive attack Notre Dame's got coming, Anthony Sarr will be a big part of that.
Okay, real quick, give me Paolo's predictions. Who you got for Saturday?
Well, USC has burned me the past few weeks, so with all these controversies that are going on so far and going to a tough road game, I think USC will fall. I'll say the Irish 24, Trojans 17.
All right. Well, it'll be interesting. It will be an interesting matchup for sure. Part of the reason why is the long-standing rivalry between USC and Notre Dame. Let's toss it over to Jackson Safan, who will give you a closer look.
Thanks, Keely. The USC versus Notre Dame rivalry is arguably the best in college football. Dating back to 1926, Notre Dame holds the series lead 45, 35, and 5. What makes this rivalry so special is the dominance these teams have showed over the history of college football. Both schools have 11 national champions and 7 Heisman Trophy winners, most recently Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart. Between 1962 and 1978, a period of 17 years, the Trojans and the Irish combined for 8 national championships. But not only do these teams dominate on the field, they dominate the television rankings as well. USC versus Notre Dame football games have been 5 of the top 10 most watched college football games in history. Unlike most natural rivalries, these two teams are obviously very close in proximity. Rumor has it the only reason they even began playing each other was back in 1926 when the wives of the Notre Dame head coach and USC athletic director decided that traveling back and forth every year would be a fun vacation. In a rivalry this big, there have obviously been some notable games. Back in 1929, the Irish beat the Trojans 13-12. This game was played at Soldier Field, and it has the second largest verified attendance in the history of college football, with over 112,000 attendees. In 1974, Notre Dame went up 24-0 in the first half, but the Trojans then scored 55 unanswered points over a span of 17 minutes. The Trojan quarterback at the time is current athletic director Pat Haden. But the biggest game in the history of the rivalry was the famous 2005 Bush Push. With first-year head coach Charlie Weiss, the Irish took a 31-28 lead with only 2 minutes to go, but Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush led the Trojans down the field, and at the last second, Leinart waved off Coach Pete Carroll and scored on a QB sneak with a little help from Reggie Bush. And it's the 10th anniversary almost to the day of that famous game. But this rivalry is obviously one of the all-time greats. For a closer look at the trophy they play for, Sports Scene Beverly Pham investigated the Jeweled Shillelagh.
The Jeweled Shillelagh is the trophy awarded to the winner of the annual USC versus Notre Dame football rivalry game. The Shillelagh is an Irish club made of oak from Ireland. For each USC victory, a ruby-encrusted Trojan head is added to the club with the year and game score. For each Notre Dame victory, an emerald-studded shamrock is added. The original Shillelagh ran out of space and is currently on permanent display at Notre Dame.
Well, I didn't know much about the Shillelagh until Coach McKay brought me into his office because we were on a run of beating them for a few years when I was here. And he brought me into the office and showed me the Shillelagh and said, "This is ours."
The rivalry really started when John McKay became the head coach, and the series was back and forth. I was lucky enough to play offensive center every play, and we got ahead in the second half, and within about a minute to go in the game, Craig Fertig threw a famous play pass to a guy named Rod Sherman, and he caught it, and we scored and went ahead and won the game. And we beat Notre Dame, and it took them out of the #1 ranking.
The current Shillelagh is displayed in Heritage Hall after USC's 49-14 victory over Notre Dame in 2014.
That was your in-depth preview of the rivalry. But switching gears, we now have Kristen Lago over on the couch with a special guest.
Thanks, Jackson. Moving from the Trojans on the football field to those in the water, I'm joined by USC men's water polo driver Blake Edwards. Thanks for joining me today, Blake.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. And I detect a little bit of an accent there. I got to start off with that. You're originally from Australia, coming to USC. How has that transition been for you?
Oh, it's been a fantastic transition. I mean, everyone's been super supportive at the school, and like you said, my accent's given me a lot of attention early, which has been really good. But no, I've had a fantastic transition.
And it must be a little bit easier because you do have some family nearby. Your younger brother, Lachlan, is also on the team. What is that like, getting to experience college together and also getting on to play on the team together?
Yeah, it's a super special experience sharing it with my little brother. Obviously, the transition's been a lot easier having Lachlan here. He's been able to show me the ropes and look after me. In a way, it's quite funny because usually I'm the one babying him at home, but since I've come to this college, he's been definitely the babying me and playing the bigger brother role, which has been quite interesting.
And looking back, I read online that you come from a water polo family of brothers that just all have been amazing playing water polo. How has that influenced you? Did you always want to play looking at your brothers playing, and did that influence you at all?
Yeah, obviously my older brothers were my biggest role models as a kid, and they started off as swimmers. So at first my dream was in swimming, and I was highly competitive in swimming, and they made the transition into water polo, and I fell in love with it straight away. My dad was a really successful water polo player, so as you said, it just ran through the family, and being able to play with my brothers was just really special.
Yeah. And then looking at the USC men's water polo team, just today your coach, Jovan Vavic, was awarded this big prestigious honor. He was announced to be the Pac-12 Coach of the Century. So I want you to give me the inside scoop. What's it like being coached by him? How does he influence you as a player?
Yeah, I'm really, I have a huge amount of respect for Jovan. Jovan was a massive reason for why I joined this program. I want to learn from him. He's a perfectionist and an absolute professional in everything that he does. And just the amount I've just been absorbing so much knowledge from him, and it's just been a fantastic and really honourable opportunity to be able to play under him.
Yeah, and then looking at the team, you guys are consistently ranked top in the nation. This year you were coming in ranked as number 2. You're still number 2. How much pressure does that put on you as a team to execute game by game?
Yeah, definitely pressure. I think just with the tradition and the success of the school, the group's quite young, but we're very, very driven and motivated, and we're in really great hands having Jovan as our coach. The program's fantastic. I think that we have everything set up for us to succeed. It's just about us implementing it. I think the belief's there within the team, so I'm really excited for what the future holds for us, and I think that we can achieve something really great this season.
Yeah. Well, looking back at the last week, you're coming off a really close loss to crosstown rival UCLA. What went wrong in that game, and what do you guys think you need to do this week to prepare for your next game?
I think just a little bit of composure. We started the game fantastic. We're up 3-0, and they got a couple goals, and instead of just slowing things down and refocusing on our defence and the things that we're doing really well in the game, we panicked a little bit. So it's probably a lack of experience, and we'll learn from that. But I think there's a lot of positives to come out of that game, and the fact that we did push them and tie the game late. Just to concede a goal really late was unfortunate, but I think we'll definitely learn from it, and there's a lot of, we can get a lot of confidence from that tournament.
And push forward to next week.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, thank you for being here. It was great
much.
talking with you. Well, you can catch Blake along with the rest of the USC men's water polo team as they fight to keep their undefeated conference streak alive this Saturday at home against Pepperdine. And switching gears, let's pass it over to Aaron for the latest USC sports news around campus.
Thanks, Kristen. You're going to have to keep the water away from me as it's time to light the torch. The USC women's soccer team improved to 9-4-1 on the season with 2 home wins over the weekend. After a 2-1 victory Friday, the women of Troy scored a season-high 3 goals en route to taking down the number 15 Arizona Wildcats 3-1. Senior forward Jamie Fink had 2 goals to lead the team. Afterward, she talked about her performance and the team's play moving forward.
We did a great build-up out of the back, and Sydney Slotnick made a fantastic cross across the net, and I just made a run to the box and shot it. So it was all because of the build-up out of the back and Slade's cross that definitely got the shot. This is definitely a big win, and I think we're really starting to feel a whole lot of confidence, and this will really help us moving on to Oregon.
The women of Troy head to Eugene this weekend to take on the Oregon Ducks. On to the hardwood. The number 1 USC women's volleyball team improved on its best start in a decade with road wins over Colorado and Utah. The women of Troy rallied to take down the Buffalo in 5 sets before sweeping the Utes in Salt Lake City. USC returns home for weekend battles with the Arizona schools starting Friday. In women's tennis, the women of Troy struggled this week in the Riviera, ITA All-American main draw in the Pacific Palisades. The doubles team of Jessica Fea and Gabby Smith snapped a 5-match winning streak with an 8-1 loss, while Juliana almost lost her singles match 6-2, 6-0. Despite the losses, the team is looking forward to this weekend's ITA Southwest Regionals.
We met with the coaches today, watched over all of our matches from the weekend, and pinpointed specific things to work on. So doing that out here in practice, so hopefully it'll carry on over.
A lot of the schools that go are like the girls on this team, so I mean they're competition, but it's still a good tournament, and I'm excited to try to win it.
The team will pack up for their trip to San Diego with the first round of regionals starting Thursday. From one court to the next, Kristen, I heard the Galen Center was in use this weekend.
That's right, Aaron. The USC men and women's basketball teams kicked off their season on Sunday at the Trojan Tip-Off. Both teams participated in short scrimmages, and some lucky fans even got to compete against their favorite Trojan players on the court. The tip-off also included an autograph session, building excitement for the upcoming season. And that's all for us here at Sports Scene this week. From the Julie Chen and Leslie Moonves CVS Media Center, I'm Kristen Lago.
And I'm Keely Eure. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.